Trigger warning, this podcast contains mature themes and discussions of cults, manipulation, and trauma. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Cultimatum, the culture of cults and human trafficking, where we expose the dark side of control, manipulation, and the human stories behind them. I'm Anonymous Andrew, executive producer and investigator into cult dynamics and coercive control.
And I'm Melody, a cult survivor and advocate for awareness and healing.
This is Cultimatum. Greetings and welcome back to another episode of Cultimatum, the culture of cult and human trafficking. And my name is Anonymous Andrew, and with me tonight is my co-host Melody. Hello, Melody.
Hello, Andrew. Today we are joined by Jonghee Celeste, a survivor of the Moonies cult. She is our first ex-Moonie here on Cultimatum. For those of you who don't know, Moonies is the same cult that cult expert Dr. Stephen Hassan, the one who created the bite model, was part of back in the 70s. Jonghee is not only a survivor, she's also a writer, an educator, and a comedian based out of Queens, New York. She is here to share her story, her survival, and her journey with all of us. We are so honored to have her with us here tonight. Jonghee, welcome to Cultimatum.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. I'm very happy to speak with you today. I do think it's important that I kind of get out the story, especially considering the ways that the Moonies cult itself has kind of gone in the last uh, 20 or so years, and the effect that it has had on the world and will continue to have, considering their business models. So okay. Uh,
I'm going to jump in right away because as Melody was introducing you, I heard two things. One, did she say you were a comedian?
Yeah, I mean, I am a stand-up comedian. That's
Okay.
right.
And you're from Queens? Living in Queens?
From born, raised, and bred.
Okay. I'm right outside. I work in Queens. I just left Queens just to come home and do this. So I'm in Jamaica near JFK Airport. So
Oh, I'm in Corona. Like, I'm like 10 blocks away from I almost say Shea Stadium.
yep, know
It's
it well.
now I guess it's City Field now, but like yeah, nah, like Mets for life.
I'm a suffering Mets fan, so I know exactly where it is. So. All right, where would you like to start your story?
Um, I mean, I guess I want to get a little background on who the Moonies are. If you grew up in the 60s, or I guess in the 70s and 80s more, in America, then you probably were aware of who the Moonies are. Like, there's like throwaway jokes, like in even like Seinfeld or like other shows like that about the Moonies. So basically, in 1954, Sun Myung Moon, uh, who had been incarcerated in prison uh, in Korea, decided that he was the second coming of Christ. Actually, he decided this when he was 16. And basically what happened is that he wrote an entire, I don't want to say manifesto, but he kind of wrote a companion thing to the Bible that was supposed to prove all of his theories about what was how, what was who, and then he um kind of used his uh knowledge of evangelical Christianity to bring that to Japan. Japan very in a very big way. And then finally to America. And in America, it it was at the time when he came to America, it was at the time when people were joining various different sorts of groups, right? Like Hare Krishnas, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and yeah, so they would evangelize, and they would draw people in. They would kind of make people come to their something of a commune. Uh, they would then basically, I mean, and this goes on to this day, uh, sort of labor traffic them to raise money for the church. Um, but I would say that the biggest thing that the Moonies are known for are their mass weddings. Now, the mass weddings were a result of something that Reverend Moon supposedly had as like a vision that Reverend Moon supposedly had as a teenager, is that we were supposed to sort of make sure that one, no sex before marriage, no sex outside of marriage, et cetera, usual things. But also, he specifically wanted to target people in order to create interracial and interreligious marriages. So he would go out of his way to match people who were not of the same faith, of the same race, of the same country. Sometimes, and the most bizarre thing about all this is that he would. So what they would do is they would. Let me go back. Sorry.
Well, let me ask you, jump in there for a second and don't lose your thought. Why? Why would he do that?
Well,
What was the purpose?
in theory, it was supposed to promote interracial, interreligious harmony. That we'd
Okay.
all be one big bag of beige.
What was this back in the 60s, 70s, 80s?
Yes, and that was like
The hippie movement.
it,
This is
that
all
was,
the flowers and the hippies and the peace and love and
and so it was kind of supposed to be like a structured form of that.
okay.
A lot of people were drawn to it, and I do understand that, especially when things seem so chaotic on the outside. So again, so the mass weddings, they would fly out like 2,000 people to Korea, and then all of the men and women, the men would be on one side, the women would be on the other side. Then they'd have them stand there in their wedding garb, and Reverend Moon would point at 2 people. He would just select them randomly and say, "You and you."
Okay,
And
so they were arranged, but they were arranged right on the spot, correct?
they were arranged on the spot, and, like, this all happened over the course of 3 days, and you could say no, but if you did say no, you kinda became a social pariah, and also if, like, especially for the women, if it didn't end up working out, the women would be the ones who suffered. Like, they would be the ones considered, like, the one who did something wrong.
Right, it
Um,
was their fault
and
that yeah,
yes,
which is
and
pretty
it was
typical
all
of a lot of cults.
yes, because, Eve is the one who caused all the evil in the world. So, so it was always about that. And so there was definitely
Was that did he preach that? 'Cause
uh, that Eve was the creator of sin, yes, much more than Lucifer.
interesting. Because I was brought up Catholic and I studied the Bible and theology and went to St. John's and Queens. And I remember the whole Adam and Eve thing, but I don't remember them blaming Eve. I mean, I know she tempted Adam, but so he's saying that she's original sin?
Exactly.
Okay.
And and so both my parents are were recovering Catholics. My
Which I am.
well, yeah, so my father is from Peru, and my mother's Italian American, raised in Colorado. Um, but yeah, they were both very, very Catholic coming in, so I can see how this kind of ideology would tempt them, especially because they were both so idealistic, and it seemed like a way out while adhering to their Catholic upbringing, while also trying to do something different.
Did they join together or did they join separately and meet inside of the group?
They met at the matching ceremony.
Okay. Wow.
So, yeah, my mother joined when she was, I think, 21 in California. My dad joined when he was 20 somewhere else, and they met at this matching ceremony. And like they, so they actually got matched on like I think the last day of the matching ceremony because it usually went on for 3 days. And so they only had like a couple hours to decide if they were going to go through with it or not. Because after they match you, then they send you like away and then you get to like go talk to the person. And my mom was like, okay. And
It makes me
and
think of
that's kind of
speed dating, but it's like speed marriage.
oh, exactly. I mean, that's pretty much exactly what it was. It was speed marriage. And yeah, and I mean, they're still together to this day.
Now that's impressive. That is impressive because
It
it's
is.
hard
It
enough to
is.
stay together when you leave a cult if you've chosen to be with that person, but if somebody matched you and it was a random match, that's impressive.
I mean, I am I hate to say this, I am never sure if they were in love, if they are in love, if they will ever be in love, but they're definitely each other's best friends, and they are definitely dedicated to each other in a very, very unique way.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a personal question, and it's more family related. But do you have siblings?
Yes. You only become one of 5 daughters if they definitely wanted to have a son. So I am the second of 5 daughters.
I say that again. You only become one of 5 daughters if they wanted to have a son.
There's no way they'd keep having sex with each other when they didn't totally like each other unless they wanted to have a son.
That's where I was going because you said
That's
you
exactly what I meant.
right. Okay, because you were implying that they may not be in love with each other, but they are best friends. But that's why I wanted to know how many siblings you had because at some point they were copulating, so they were producing children. But I guess so apparently you don't have a brother. So when no boys came, I guess they gave up.
Uh,
Fair to say?
they kept trying, and it's
Like,
because
okay,
my sister was 36 when they got married.
okay, wow,
She was 39 and
wow,
had 3 more kids.
wow, okay,
I mean, so it's like
good for them.
I mean, yeah, and, like, I love all my sisters, and it's like, all of us have our own journeys now, like, none of us are involved in the cult at this point, um,
Okay, good,
so,
What about your
yeah,
parents? Are
and
they still part of it?
they're still very much active.
very much
They are.
active. Okay,
Oh, so they're
they are.
active in
Wow,
the
okay,
wow.
interesting.
Even despite the fact that none of us are part of it anymore.
And how do they
Uh,
feel about that? Have they was that hard for them or have they accepted that?
um, I mean, they never loved it, but, like and there's been times when there's been, like, massive amounts of conflict, but, like, as we've gotten older, they I feel like they kind of understood that they had to step away and just let us do whatever it is we wanted to do.
So, do you see them holidays or throughout the? Where do they live?
So I wanna say maybe 3 years ago, as I said, my father's from Peru. They retired, and they moved over there.
Okay,
Even though my mother's not from there, but she speaks fluent Spanish, so she's fine. And I mean, you know, the money that you have here is very different than the money you have in Peru. So in Peru, they can actually like afford stuff, and they, uh,
when's the last time you saw them in person?
my mother is currently visiting actually, um,
Oh,
and
okay.
my father is he also currently visited because they try to come. Oh, apparently around October is when you can visit, so that's when they try to come. Yeah. So
So
and my
does the
sister
Moonies cult not frown upon people having relationships with family members that leave the group? Is that something that they don't practice?
Yes. However, both my father and mother were mavericks in this. They like my father, like even when he joined the cult, he knew what it was, he knew what he was getting into, but like he would constantly break the rules. Like back in the
Okay.
70s or 80s. Like, he
Okay,
would
I
like
see what you're
like
saying.
he said stuff like, "You're not allowed to have a TV." And so immediately he got a TV.
A
They said,
rebel.
"You're not allowed to have a car." So immediately he bought a van. They said, "You're not allowed to wear jeans." So
So
immediately
he bought a pair of jeans. Did he get in trouble or for any of this?
I mean, he did, but my dad doesn't let people yell at them.
Really?
So he's like
So okay.
So and also there's this, like there were some weird practices. So another thing about the Moonies is that there's many allegations against Reverend Moon about, uh, sexual assault that may have occurred with
Of course.
very young women, because every cult is a sex cult. Like, that's
Hmm.
facts. Um, and,
We see that a
um
lot.
yeah, I mean, like, there's no existing occult without there being some weird
You
sex.
have a trigger warning on here that you're going to hear that because 99% of the cults that we have on here are there's sexual abuse or predators or so. Yeah, it's not
Well,
uncommon.
especially because it was particularly weird because I think that despite being raised in a culture in which I was told, so often how, like, illicit sex is, and how you're not supposed to have sex outside of marriage, and, like, how sex is evil unless it's done in the proper way, unless it's done in the name of God, blah, blah, blah. I learned about sex much earlier than most kids. Like, I knew what sex was when I was 5 years old. I don't think most kids can say that.
You mean based on the cult because they explained it to you to tell you that this you shouldn't be doing it?
Yes, and so,
Okay.
like, I definitely knew what it was way before most of my classmates, for example, like, because it was just so and it that kind of that kind of made me realize that, like, cults tell you exactly what sex is and then tells you not to do it, and then demonizes you for thinking about it, for wanting it, for even contemplating it, and it's just like,
And that's the problem that I have, and I think Melody and a lot of us in the cult ex cult world have a problem with is that all these cult leaders get up on the pulpit and they preach about sex before marriage and you can't hold hands and, and I could name five right off the top of my head, but and Melody came from a cult that all of a sudden the leader got caught cheating, so now polygamy was allowed. So it's the Mormon Church, the uh, help me out, Melody. What's the other church? We just did the interview on them in Utah.
The Order
The
or
Order, the,
the Kingston Clan?
and the Children of God. It's all about sex. All of them.
that's what it comes down to is that most cults are not about God, they're about sex.
They are
And money, and money.
That
It's about the
that
sex and the money. That's what it ends up boiling down to.
well,
power, sex, and money. It's kind of all roll into one.
and it's not about keeping anyone safe, it's not about keeping anyone pure, it's not about protecting children, it's not about raising children right. It's about control, like you said, power, I suppose, money, and sex.
You're not getting an argument out of me.
So,
That's the
so
way
could you
it
tell
is.
us, when did you start having doubts? You have
Um,
one older sister. Did she have doubts or did she leave before you? How did that all play out?
so, I mean, I had always had doubts, if I'm being honest,
Always.
uh,
Wow.
like, okay, I will say, I did think it was valuable for me to read the Bible thoroughly, to read the Divine Principle, which is the Moody, like, companion Bible text. I didn't think it was valuable for me to read the Quran. I didn't think it was valuable to read the Torah. I did think it was valuable to read all of these other books of other religions, because that's like one of the ways that, like, religion can trick you is that they make you think it's very, like, educational. Especially because, like, I like that kind of stuff. Like, I like reading.
Well,
Uh,
and of course, they all claim to have the truth, and then they try to prove to you that they're the truth.
exactly. And at some point, you have to realize, like, not all these people can possibly think they have the truth, like, and they're kind of just playing us.
Well, the
Uh,
Jehovah's Witnesses is all about the truth, so it's
well, yeah, and it's just, and I
each cult has their own truth and their own set of bylaws and protocols, and we talk about this all the time. They all take it from the same playbook, and they just twist it and manipulate it and spin it to their benefit so it fits their agenda.
Right. But I guess, I mean, one thing that happened was that when I was about 12 years old, I started having visions, like like literal visual visions and audible vision, like, uh sort of hallucinations is what they ended up being. But the way that I conceived it to my parents, they told me that I was being haunted by evil spirits. And the thing is, I had been having these kind of hallucinations since I was about 9 years old.
So you
And
kept it a secret for a few years before you said anything.
yeah, I used to just have these panic attacks and like hide for hours. And when I when I finally told them about these visions, because I was worried that it was going to harm a classmate of mine, they started making me, even though I'd read it a million times, they started making me read at least 5 pages of the Divine Principle, which is like the Mooney Bible, um, every night. And it was called my condition. And so I just had to do that for years. Uh, Many years later, I found out it's because I was bipolar.
Wow.
And like that's the exact age when bipolar hallucinations start to occur. And you're like when you're like between the ages of like 9 and 12. And so I have read the Moody Bible, Divine Principle, probably 100 times. Recently, I asked my parents how many times they had each read it. My dad's like, I don't know, once. Your mom has probably read it like 3. And I'm like, you made me read it forwards to backwards 100 times. And you never thought to take this in. And that was a very difficult thing to accept that, like, and that was also something that I was very frustrated with whenever I went to church and like I had youth group, is that I would like be talking, like, we would be having, because youth group is like, youth group is half like just like hanging out, eating junk food, like doing whatever, and then half like, oh, we're gonna sit down and seriously talk about God or whatever. And I would I would ask questions on the text or want to bring up questions about things, and nobody knew what I was talking about. Like, not the pastor. Like, not even the other kids. Just like the pastor did not know what I was talking about. And I would have to like flip to the actual page and be like, this, what does this mean? And
Wow.
so following a book that they don't know and have not read. And that was a very
So do you know
alarming
if
thing.
your parents shared what was going on with you with the church leaders, and were they being guided, by the
Well, they
church leaders?
no, they absolutely did not.
Okay, and was that because
Because
they
something much more
feared the
extreme would
reaction?
no, I think it's because something much more extreme would have happened. They would have sent me to Korea.
Okay. Okay, so
That's
they feared
like
the repercussions if they told any of the church elders.
also because they would be embarrassing.
Right, so it
Yeah.
reflected
Yeah.
poorly on
Yep.
them.
Right. I think it was more that than anything, is that they just didn't want to be embarrassed. They didn't want to get me help in any sense. And like that I think is something I did want to touch on is like community makes it so that you don't take any kind of mental health seriously, even
Uh,
with clear signs. And like they could have definitely gotten me help earlier. And when I finally did got diagnosed, when I went to college, they immediately rejected it. They said, this is all nonsense. This is like why we didn't want you to go to that liberal school. Like, you're just getting brainwashed. So,
Jonghee, I also live with bipolar, and I was diagnosed officially by a very well-known psychiatrist here in New York back in the late 70s and 80s. But my father was a doctor, and out here on Long Island. he knew something was wrong with me in my early teens. So my teens, so a little older than when you were diagnosed, 9, 10, 11. And they went out of their way to hide it. They were embarrassed because he was among the community of his doctor friends, and God forbid his son, was sick, mentally ill. So I get it. I understand what it's like to be, that old expression, children are heard, seen, not heard, right? I just remember vividly the parties we had. I don't know if I want to bring this up. Do you remember The Exorcist?
Well, yeah.
Okay, the very beginning when
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
when
about.
she comes down and pees in front of the entire that's what I did that once. I didn't pee, but, my parents were having this huge party, and I came down and I made a scene because I was gonna say, "You're not gonna hide me because I need help," and so it's something that we children will do to get attention because we need help. We need help. So, okay, I don't want to make this about me. Let's get back to your story. So, the last, I think you were 12, 13, 14.
I was
What?
well, no, they started making me do the readings every day when I was, like, 12, 13, and then
Okay.
when I was 15, so we used to have these, like, little like, whenever there was, like, a spring break or something like that, like, we'd have, like, these week-long things where all the kids would camp out at the church for the week. We called them workshops, and that's what they called them when they used to recruit cult members in the '70s. Also, I don't think I totally mentioned this. Um, so I'm something called a second generation, which means that my parents, since they got officially um, uh, matched by Reverend Moon, that any children they had would be considered second generation of Christ and would therefore be free of original sin. So guess what? I'm free of original sin. And we were supposed to go on and on to do
Well,
that.
well, eh, if I'm not mistaken, and if I remember my theology in Catholicism, isn't that what baptism is? Is when they wash away original sin?
Yeah, it's kind of like a baptism of sorts, except
Okay.
getting married with a random person and then making a child.
Okay.
So we had these like second gen workshops when I was 15. Uh, I was having a particularly difficult time. Like I just started reading Crime and Punishment. Like, so that's not a good headspace to be in.
No. No.
um, and there was this one kid, and he was a preacher's kid, classic PK. And we were doing something where we were supposed to be doing like praise worship, and he started like making fun of the song and getting all the other kids to play with it, like to go with him to like, make fun of all of it. And I lost my mind. Like, my sister had to physically pull me out of the room because I got so angry. Because I was like, "I'm gonna attack this guy because he I understand that he's like, the ceremony is ridiculous. I understand that we're doing all this is ridiculous, but he don't get to disrespect God." And so my sister had to, like, literally drag me out of the room, and then she called my parents to, like, take me home. And they did come, and I was gonna go. Then I decided, "No. You know what?" Because the next thing we were gonna do was we were gonna drive upstate to the Mooney estate in Terrytown, because they have a giant mansion there, and I decided to go because there's this rock called the Prayer Rock where supposedly Reverend Moon, like, made some big promise to or whatever. So we went up there and I prayed, like, I legitimately prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed, and I realized that I heard nothing, and that was very, very damning in a way. Like, it hurt, and that was the moment that I kinda lost faith.
But obviously
Did
you
you we
couldn't leave until you were an adult, I assume.
Well, that's what I'm saying. After
Yeah.
that, until I was 18 and could go off to college, I went so hard on it. I told everyone I wanted to be a pastor when I grew up. That I was gonna, dedicate my life to it. And then when time for college came, what happened was that I got accepted to several very good schools. And when I got an acceptance from one school, my parents are like, "Oh, you have to take a gap year, right? Because this is a tradition in the Moonies, is that before you go to college, you have to take a gap year to do like service work, like kind of like a Mormon missionary trip." And I didn't want to do that. I realized, I realized that, especially because I had realized how abusive the kind of whole the labor trafficking was. My sisters lived out of vans. Like, they didn't get to sleep, like, in a clean space for weeks. They got $5 a day for food, and so I said, "No, I'm not doing that." And so 3 days so in July, after I graduated high school, my dad said something, and I was like, "What are you talking?" And I said something about, like, how we were gonna do something the next week, and he's like, "Oh, you're not doing that." And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Oh, because you're leaving to Guatemala tomorrow." And I was very confused. I said, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, since you won't do your year-long mission, you're going to do a 40-day mission in Guatemala because, 40 days, biblical number, blah, blah, blah. Everything has to be in 21, 7, 40. It all has to be that, right?" And so they sent me there. They basically made me a slave. They left me in a shack. I, uh,
And this was all
I,
organized by the church?
yeah, and
You think this was punishment?
of course it was.
We'll be right back after a quick break.
Don't go anywhere. More Cultimatum is coming up.
But it was my condition. That's what they call everything when it's like they make you do bad stuff, like, "Oh, that you need to do something, something, something condition." Like,
Yeah, it's
you
gaslighting. It's punishment, but it's their way of saying to you, but it's part of your repentance or it's part of your
Well,
yeah,
what was
basically, it's your fault. It's your fault.
right.
it was a part of the whole thing that, like, even in, like, when my parents joined, they, like, would do things like that. They would, like, say, like, "Oh, you have to only have cold showers for a week. You have to not eat for a week." In order to get married, actually, you had to what is it? Fast for 21 days.
So so how long were you in Guatemala?
Well, that's interesting. I was supposed to be there for 40 days because that was supposed to be my condition. But after 21 days, and after starving myself and whatevering, I called my parents one day and I said, "I am going to go down to the airport and I'm coming home tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm going to kill myself." And that wasn't a threat, it was a reality. And they said, "What?" And I said, "I'm coming home. I will call you when I get to JFK." And I paid the amount of money that I needed to get myself down there. And it was only after 21 days. So I felt that I had served my mission because at least it was a biblical number.
For you.
And they didn't talk to or feed me for a week.
Wow. And was this your final break then? Is this when you actually left and didn't hold on to any of the beliefs anymore? Or
I mean, I had already lost it years ago. I was just pretending.
Yeah. She was already P
right.
mode, you know?
Yes. Yes.
So I could only do so much before the like month before I had to go to college, which they didn't support. And it was intense. Like it was a lot.
So college was your
I
escape
can
then?
imagine, but I can't imagine. Yeah. Wow. So you came back to Queens and you went to college, and I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, like, and you don't have to answer these because I don't know. What? By the way, what for time reference? What year are we talking about when this all happened? When you came back to Queens? And I mean, you took the plane back to JFK. When was that?
2010.
Okay. So, did you finish college? Did you ever get married? Did you ever start a family?
Um, so I went to college. I uh, went to Swarthmore for theater and music, um, and I currently work as a tutor. And I write, and I'm trying to get my work out there. I am actually, so this is odd. I'm in the process of converting to Judaism.
Okay. Why did you pick that?
Well, I mean, okay, so my
No judgment. I'm just curious. Why did you pick that?
well, I mean, so because my parents kind of shoved all this religious text on me,
Uh huh.
made sure to read everything else just because that's how I am. Like I like reading, I like learning. Um and
Okay.
Judaism was pretty much kind of the only religion I ever, like, respected, I wanna say. I know that's a weird thing to say, but, like, it's
No,
is,
no, it's not. It,
mm, and
but here comes a really, really hard question, and feel free to say you either don't have an answer, you don't want to answer, blah blah blah. You had the option, the choice when you came back and you went to college, and you had the choice. You said you chose to study Judaism. You also had the choice to do none of that, do nothing, become an atheist or agnostic, or just go on with your life and put this behind you and deconstruct. And yet you chose another religion. Do you want
well,
to elaborate on that?
I will say that, like, when I was in college, like, when you're, like, 18, that it's cool to say you're an atheist. Like, and so you kinda just roll with that, but, like, I knew that that's not really what I thought.
Okay.
And so I didn't, and I don't like, and that's the thing, like, I just don't like anyone telling me what I think, despite the damage that the movies have done to me. They don't get to take God away from me.
Good answer. That's the answer I was looking for. Okay. That's all you had to say. Okay.
Very good.
Completely understand.
I have a question
The
that is a little bit off base, and because I know that the real name for the Moonies, I know it was originally called the Unification Church. Um, do people in the Moonies actually call themselves Moonies as well, or is that only something that people on the outside of the group use? Is that a term used internal as well?
Oh, yeah, no, we're fine with it. Actually, people like it.
yeah.
Okay, they like being called the Moonies. Okay.
And one of those things where, like, what is the other thing? Like Yankees, like, that's, like, people are fine with that. Like, like,
Okay.
everyone actually
Okay.
adopts it very well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If you call me a Yankee, it doesn't. If you go down south and they go, "Oh, those Yankees," it doesn't bother me. It's like, so yeah, I get that. Wow. So all right. So let's try to tie this up a little bit here, because you did answer the question that I was going to ask you at the end, and and that was an excellent answer, by the way. Where are you along in your study? You see, because you said you're studying to convert to Judaism. That's, I think, what the term you used.
Yes, I mean, I'm in classes, and I hope to be done in a couple of months,
And
and
do you get bar mitzvahed?
I'm not totally sure what the actual thing in,
Okay.
my older sister converted to Judaism, and one of my younger sisters is now a Muslim. Um, so, like, we all kind of
Wow,
have,
you guys really just sprouted out all different directions.
well,
Okay.
like, and
is
my
she
youngest
is
sister
she
in the jolt or in the cult of Gen Z. So,
is she a full Muslim, burqa and all, or just
yes. Well, no, I mean,
American?
she wears a hijab,
Okay.
so
Okay.
yeah, and they've been married for, she and her husband, they have 3 kids, 3 beautiful little daughters. They've been married for, oh, 2018. Well, like, they've been married for 7 years, um, and seems to be going well. I mean, I think we all kind of found our own paths in different ways, like, none of us are involved, like, we're still friends with some people from the cult, honestly, pretty much everyone has left.
Yeah,
Like,
we're hearing
we
that about a
basically
lot of
Oh,
cults.
yeah, we hear that. Yeah, yeah. And every guest that comes on, pretty much all the cults that we've interviewed, and I shouldn't be generalizing, saying all the cults, but the majority of cults that are alive and functioning in 2025 are dwindling. Like
Yes.
Jehovah's Witnesses, the people are fleeing. The Amish people are fleeing. The Seventh Day Adventists, the Mormons are all fleeing because it's just,
Especially young people.
yeah, especially the young people, right? So, however, the Catholics, the mainstream, the Catholics, the Jews, and I guess like the Protestants, the mainstream religions that aren't really culty are doing fine, are doing very well. Well, I don't know about the Catholics. So, anyway, I'll go off on a rant. Jonghee, is there anything that we didn't get to ask you, or do you want to finish up any part of your story that, and then I'll let Melody take over?
Oh, I guess just I think, one thing that is not emphasized enough, if you've seen the Netflix documentary about the Moonies, then they touch on this a bit, but is that it was largely for business and that they extorted people for business. And my parents gave so much money to this organization for so many years
Mhm.
for their businesses. Like, okay, if you've ever eaten sushi, guess what? The the moons provided the fish. They have like a hold on so many different things, and they are, and like I am sure you heard about the assassination of the Japanese prime minister. Um, and that was because of the fact that the shooter was uh
Mooney.
he no well yeah he was an ex Mooney because his mother had given all her money to the Moonies.
Mm.
He was resentful of that, and it's that it doesn't just take over your mind; it can take over your like entire stability, like financial stability, and therefore like livable stability.
Mm.
That's what you really need to be cognizant of when you think of like getting involved in any sort of cause or effort or
Nation cult. We could just say it right out loud. Just we don't. The Cultimatum podcast, and Melody and I, we have a saying: nobody gets up in the morning and joins a cult, but people get up in the morning and they want to join an organization. So it could be a religious organization, it could be spiritual, it could be meditation, it could be a yoga thing, but they all end up I shouldn't say they all. A lot of them end up being culty, and they become control freaks, and they suck the money out of you, and they suck the life out of you, and they suck your soul, and et cetera, et cetera. And so this is what your story is very, very, very common. It's I would imagine you didn't give up a lot of money because you didn't have a lot of money, but your parents did and still do, I would imagine, right?
I mean, yes, but I uh, basically they used us as collateral.
And labor. You were used as labor.
All of my sisters
Yeah.
were severely, severely labor trafficked. Like that's not okay with me to this day. Like, and they dedicated years of their lives to that.
Yeah. No, it's very common. Unfortunately, it's a common thing that labor trafficking is, and I think a lot of people don't even realize that they're a victim of it until they're out of it. And then they can look back and be like, I dedicated hours and hours and hours upon hours of my time to this organization, and I didn't get paid a dime for it.
Yeah.
They paid for it. That's the worst part is that they paid to go there in the first place, and then they
Yes.
got labor.
Yes, you're paying to traffic yourself. Exactly. No, you give them money and you give them time.
Um, I'd like Melody to ask her question, but if I heard the answer already, Chung-hee already answered your question. I don't know if you heard it, but um, Yeah, go ahead and ask your
I
question.
think so, but I have a feeling that I think I know where you're going with that, so but I will ask my
Yeah,
question.
but I want you to a
Y
ask it again, and let's see if she gets
yes.
the same answer.
The question that I ask at the end of every episode is, if somebody is listening that might find themselves in a similar situation, whether that's in the Moonies or a similar group, and they're starting to have doubts, or they're thinking about joining an organization, what would be your words of advice to them?
I would say trust your gut. That's the biggest thing.
It's the
It's
most
because
common answer.
I mean, no, like when you know you
Great. No, it's great.
when you know, and it's like something feels bad, something feels icky, someone's pushing you to try to do something you don't actually want to do.
Right.
If you're stopping yourself from not doing something you want to do, it goes both ways. That's really the key. It's that you have to just
Trust your gut.
trust your gut. And, you know, I believe in God, and I believe that God believes in Claude, and that's me. That's from hair.
Okay. Just briefly, because I've said it before in this podcast, and I'll say it again because it's biology and physiology. Our gut is our second brain, and when the first brain shuts down and doesn't act rationally and logically, so it does things that we normally wouldn't do, like our brain make a decision, our gut kicks in. That's the fear, flight, or fright part of our makeup. And that's so when you just said trust your gut, if something doesn't feel right in your gut, like you literally just feel like stabbing pains, and everybody has different types of gut feelings, but something isn't right, and the brain is telling you, oh yeah, 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 it's fine. Trust your gut. And your answer is Melanie. I'd say it's
Yeah.
over 50% of the
Yeah,
yeah,
we
most
have a lot of
people
people that
give the
give a
same
very
answer.
similar answer.
Yep,
I do
yep.
have one more question, which is kind of unusual, but
Sure.
I do want to ask one more question, Junghee. Are you familiar with Dr. Stephen Hassan, and have you looked at the bite model? Oh gosh, I would highly suggest that. It is you. It's the it's for to basically it gives you an idea whether or not you're in a cult and you're under authoritarian control. And the bite
Well,
stands for
that, yeah, no, I do know that. No, I know what
oh,
you're talking
you
about.
do
Never
know that.
mind.
Okay, yep. The behavior, information, thought, and emotional control.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And I'm sure that you have stood that up against the Moonies, considering that that was the same group of the same cult that Dr. Stephen Hassan was from, and I'm sure
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you checked every box. So, well, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jung-hee, for coming on the show and sharing your story with us.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a I hope you know, wasn't just like a teary mess.
No, 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 no,
No,
no, no,
you
no.
did fine.
I'm very happy that you came on and told your story. Very brave, very courageous, and very you were very vulnerable. Thank you for that. And now I can connect the dots with Stephen Hassan, the bite model, and your story. And it's just an amazing journey that you went through. And I'm glad. And I wish you the best of luck in your conversion to Judaism.
Yes,
Happy
thank you.
Hanukkah, happy Passover.
There you there you go.
What's coming up? Hanukkah's coming up. So happy Hanukkah. Okay. No, I'm not joking. I'm wishing you happy holidays because I know that's coming up. Are you practicing any Judaism? Like, do you go to the temple on
Uh,
Sabbath?
like I said, my older sister, she converted to Judaism, so I take her children to Shabbat services.
Okay.
We celebrate Shabbat every Friday. Like we
All right. Good.
all the holidays, and also every serious romantic partner I've ever had has been Jewish. So
Okay.
so so there's that. So
Yeah,
that
the Jews tend to really marry within their own religion.
well,
So
yes, my boyfriend's
yeah,
actually very, very happy that I'm doing
there,
that. But he's
there
pretending
you go.
he's pretending he doesn't care, but I can tell he's very happy.
Good. All right, Jung-hee, thank
Yes,
you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
yes. Thank you again. Bye-bye. And once again, we want to thank Jung Hee for coming on the show and sharing her story with us and educating us a little bit about the Moonies because I have watched some documentaries on the Moonies, but I didn't know, like, the question I asked, which was that, do they call themselves Moonies? And or I was like, maybe they find that term offensive, or maybe it's a term they don't use until they're on the outside of it looking in, which I'm glad to know that that doesn't offend them and they call themselves Moonies. So
And I learned something tonight, and you would think, where have I been my whole life? Because the leader was, what was his name? Moon, right?
yes, Sun Myung Moon.
Yeah, and so I just realized that that's where the Moonies come from, and I know people are probably laughing
Oh,
right now, but
yes, from the leader's name.
let's just put this out there right now. I didn't start getting into the cult world until 2 years ago. So
Right,
my whole life, I just ignored all these culty things, except when the big things like Johannesburg and all that crap
right,
happened. But I didn't really, and like Waco, Texas, but I didn't, other than the Hare Krishna, which everybody told, I told that story about when I was a kid. I saw them everywhere, and the Jehovah's Witnesses. But the Moonies, while I've heard of them, to me, you're gonna find this funny, but there's a moon pie. There's a cake
oh, yeah,
that's called the moon. You know,
a
so
moon
I
pie,
to me
yep.
the Moonie, yeah. So but I'm learning, still learning.
Yes.
2 years into this podcast, and I'm still learning. So
And that was our first Moonie that was our first ex-Moonie that we've had
that
on
was
the
the second
show
thing.
too. So
Was our That
you
was our
haven't
first
heard, it's
Moonie.
not one you've heard a lot about other than the
No,
reference
not
for
at all.
Doctor Stephen Hassan, which is pretty much the
So,
only other time
and
you
just
might
a
have heard it.
quick shout out to Zach, who we had on, and he had us on his podcast. The name of his podcast is Everything and Anything and a Little Bit Gay Too. I think that was the name of his podcast. And he recommended Jonghee to come on. He's the one that hooked us up with Jonghee. So thank you, Zach. But a delightful interview. I really enjoyed talking to her, and I learned things that like you said, new cult for me. So thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you again to Jung-hee for coming on the show, and as always, thank you to for all of you for tuning into Cultimatum. We do appreciate your support in our mission to expose the truth and highlight the voices of these survivors.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple and Spotify, and don't forget to follow, share, and keep listening to all of our latest episodes.
And you can also follow Cultimatum on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and YouTube for more content and updates.
Don't forget to join our Facebook group, Cultimatum Podcast, where we dive deeper into these important topics.
And if you are a cult survivor and you're looking for any additional support, you can join the Cult Escape and Healing group on Facebook.
If you're interested in more of my work, you can go over and check out anonymousandrewpodcaststudios.com, where all of the podcasts that we work on there, the digital dating, the weekend rant, and of course, Cultimatum. And there's a couple of new things that are going to be coming to the website, so check back there soon.
And if you have a story related to cults or human trafficking that you would like to share with us, please email us at cultimatumpodcast@gmail.com.
Want to support the show? You can help us by covering production costs by buying us a cup of coffee. Just follow the link in our show notes. And I know you probably are hearing commercials now on our show, but trust us, those commercials do not pay a lot of money. So we still need donations.
Yes, it's pennies. It's pennies. Takes a lot to add up.
It's literally pennies. It is.
So as always, stay safe, stay informed, and remember, you are not alone.